Hi, today we're going to talk about problem-solving tools, and this particular video focuses on the Pareto chart. Just to give you a heads up, the other tools we're going to be talking about in future videos are the operations process chart, which you'll have a homework on and will also incorporate bill of material. Flow process chart and flow diagram we'll also discuss in a future video, and you're going to do some activities in class to analyze a process, build the current process, flow process chart and flow diagram, make some improvements, and then create the new flow process chart and flow diagram. Today though, this particular video, we're going to focus on Pareto chart. You'll have a lab later in the quarter that you will be able to practice building a Pareto chart in Excel with data that we provide you that will be on PolyLearn, or data that you collect from your project. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about a Pareto chart. First of all, a Pareto chart is a form of a histogram, and what I've shown here is a histogram. It has the categories on the bottom. In this particular example, it has the multiple choice question, and then it has the number of students, the frequency along the y-axis. So we'll say this is the number of students that got the question wrong. So for example, question number 15, 5 students got it wrong. So again, we have categories at the bottom, and then frequency of occurrence of that category along the y-axis. And that we have that same thing in a Pareto chart too, but in a Pareto chart we sort it a little differently. So you can see here pretty easily that it's question 15 and question 18 that are causing students the most issues, but what we want to do is make best use of our resources when we're solving issues. So think about these would probably be categories, and we'll see a Pareto chart on the next slide. These would be categories of types of problems, and then the y-axis would be the number of times each of those categories occurs. So we want to focus on solving the few categories that will resolve the most occurrences of issues. And so we call that the 80-20 rule. We want to get rid of 80% of the occurrences by solving 20% of the problems that cause those 80% of occurrences. And this 80-20 rule is roughly 80-20. It doesn't have to be exactly that. It could be 70-30, it could be 85-15, but where we get the fewest types of categories causing the most types of issues, and you'll see that on the next slide. So again, the x-axis shows the type of occurrence, the category of issue, and then the y-axis shows the frequency of how that occurs. And the data is shown in two ways. The bar is going to show the individual occurrence, and then we have a line that will be the cumulative occurrence. And so you see that here. So this is an actual Pareto chart. So very similar to a histogram, you see, where we have the types of categories along the x-axis. Looks like this has something to do with being able to open and work with files on your computer. And then each type of category, and in this case we have 9 different types of categories, so 9 types of issues. And then the y-axis we have the number of times, or the frequency, that each one occurs. So unable to download occurs 50 times out of all the data that we collected. Can't open a file, that occurs 30 times. And so you see we have the categories, instead of just listing them. The prior slide had the multiple choice question order. We list them from the occurrence that has the issue that has the most occurrences to the issue that has the least occurrences. And then so each bar is an individual, talks about, provides data on the individual category, individual type of occurrence. And then the line here is our cumulative line, and we definitely need this to complete the Pareto chart. You can see this little dash line here is at the 80%. So we see where those two lines intersect, that would give us our 80-20. And as I stated before, we're not going to be able to be exactly correct and do I wouldn't even call it correct, but do 80-20, 20% of the issues having 80% of the occurrences. In this case, you can see that if we just focus on the top 2 issues, we would have probably 70-75% of the occurrences. And so that would be fine. But if we have enough resources, because remember, I believe I said that we'll always have more issues to tackle than we have resources available to tackle them. So we want to prioritize them, and so that we get our resources focused on the issues that will solve the most problems for us. And so you see, if we go out to the third category here, opens as read only, if we solve that, then we're going to be up and solve 90%, roughly 90% of all the occurrences would then go away if we resolve them 100%. And so you see they list here as the vital few. So here they're choosing to work on these 3. So we'd allocate resources to solve these 3 issues. or minimize them anyway, solve these 3 issues, and then we just wouldn't even worry about these. It's not that these are not relevant, it's just that when we have limited resources, we need to prioritize them in some way. And so if we prioritize resources here, we're going to solve almost 90% of the occurrences, versus if we prioritize someone over here, that's only 1 out of however many total occurrences we had, of very, very small percentages. So you can see that we can use a Pareto chart to prioritize so that we resolve as many issues, as many events as possible with as few categories as possible. Okay, so that's the Pareto chart, and like I mentioned, you'll have a chance to practice that in lab with data that we provide you or data that you collect in your project, and you can talk to your coaches or myself, and we can help you identify some good areas to collect, help you define categories for your project so you can get Pareto chart analysis as part of helping you on your project. Additionally, how to build this in Excel is going to be a pretty important thing to do, because we'd rather do that than by hand, obviously. And so this slide deck is posted on Polylearn for you, and these 2 videos are pretty good. If you go to YouTube or Google and hit Pareto chart help, I'm sure you'll find some additional ones as well. But these are both, I think, very good. They not only tell you how to build the chart in Excel, but they also go over why the chart is important. Again, so a little bit of a review of what I've just gone over with you. So these will be good for you to watch in preparation for the lab when we have that later this quarter. All right, so that finishes up Pareto chart, and then we'll continue on to the next video, which will be operations process chart. Thank you.